Good evening. We're back with another episode of the Lord of the Rings LCG Progression Series, and tonight is the lore and quest guide for The Road to Rivendell, second quest of the Dwarrowdelf cycle. Your party has braved the snows of the past, but now must travel north along the misty mountains for league upon league as you escort Arwen to her father's house. So, if you recall in the last quest, the Redhorn Gate, we traveled from Lorien up through the mountain pass of Caradhras, sorry for the terrible pronunciation, and then down out of the mountains. This was the pass that the Fellowship of the Ring attempted in the book and the movie The Fellowship of the Ring after they left Rivendell and headed down to the pass. They attempted but found the pass impassable, and then they traveled further south and through Moria. In our quest series here, the Dwarrowdelf cycle, we're traveling from Lorien, escorting Arwen, whose father Elrond resides in Rivendell. Escorting her, we went up over the mountains, through the pass, down the other side, and now our task is to proceed north to Rivendell. So, let's take a look at the quest. This is a wild and perilous country, and it is dangerous to follow the roads. The mountains rise up on the right, impassively watching your slow trek among their foothills. Heavy rain drives you to seek shelter among the caves of the mountains. They are dry, and the fire you start seeps into your bones and restores your spirit. Your ears are heavy when the soft clatter of falling pebbles reaches your ears. Perhaps you are not alone. Orcs and other creatures have hounded you since fighting your way free of the orc outpost. Soon you will reach the safety of Rivendell's borders, but supplies have dwindled and you are dead weary from sleepless nights of keeping watch as dark forms shadow your camps. So there are several references to events from books or movies in this quest. We're following the path north to Rivendell, which is the inverse of the path taken by the Fellowship of the Ring in the Fellowship of the Ring. Second, there's let's say a reference to the event in The Hobbit where the dwarves and Bilbo took shelter in an orc cave. They didn't know it was an orc cave. They thought it was unoccupied, but it turned out there was a door at the back and out sprang a bunch of orcs. So that seems similar to me to what happens here, where we take shelter in a cave that seems unoccupied, but then it is not. Overall, there's not a lot going on in this quest. As you can tell, in Phase 1, there's nothing. It's just making progress. You do have Arwen with you, and you do start with one encounter card per player. But other than that, in Phase 1, nothing really goes on. Just 20 progress. For Phase 2, you search the encounter deck and discard pile for Goblin Gate. This is the gimmick of this quest, such as it is. So let's take a look at the Goblin Gate, which is a 5-threat location, and while it is the active location, the first enemy revealed from the encounter deck each round gains ambush. If that enemy engages a player, it makes an immediate attack. So you want to have a sufficient setup where you only have to deal with this for one round. And that's not too hard to do. If you've gotten to that point and gotten your 20 progress, you're probably already set up to do this. Once you pass the Goblin Gate, there's not much else to this quest. When you get to approaching Rivendell, you reveal one card from the encounter deck per player, and characters can't be healed, but in my playthroughs of this quest, I haven't found that to be an issue. If you get 13 progress, you've won the game. So, not much challenge from this quest's gimmick, the Goblin Gate. Most of the challenge of this quest comes from encounter cards. So we'll take a look at a few of them. We've got A interesting mechanic in this quest that we haven't seen before, and that hasn't been used ever since then as far as I know, called ambush. So ambush means that when this enemy enters play, when a card with the ambush trait enters play, each player makes an immediate engagement check against it instead of waiting for the encounter phase to make an engagement check. So if Wild Bear should come out of the encounter deck as the encounter card during the staging step, and you have higher than 34 threat, it will immediately engage you. And after it engages a player, it would make an immediate attack. Now, in practice, I haven't found that to be too big a deal. And that's probably why the mechanic was never used again. If you don't have 34, then the ambush doesn't do anything. The enemy enters play, makes an engagement check. You make an engagement check against it, but if your threat's lower than 34, it just sits there. Kind of an underwhelming ambush. I would think that the ambush mechanic, it would make more sense to me if every card with the ambush trait made an immediate attack. But this was relatively early in the game, and that's not the way they chose to do it. Each of the enemies with the ambush trait seem to have some kind of forced effect when they engage, so it would engage you and then immediately do something. But it also makes questing easier because you immediately get the threat out of the staging area if the ambush goes off. Anyway, this one, when he engages the player deals 2 damage to one character he controls. We have a card that can make all the orc enemies make an immediate attack. You can have 1 damage to all allies in play. You can have all orc enemies in the staging area engage the first player, which does have the potential to overwhelm you, as an ambush might. Mountain wargs are always annoying. Any card that can return itself to the staging area if it doesn't get a shadow card with an effect is very annoying, I've found. But other than getting randomly overwhelmed by enemies, so you can't play like a really bad deck, but you don't have to play your best deck either. And you can play a fun deck, a fun good deck, and do just fine on this quest and not worry too much about it. It is not very high on the difficulty scale, though that's relative because, as I've said before, every quest in Lord of the Rings LCG is difficult and can kill you in nasty ways. But relative to some of the other quests in the game, this is not one of the harder ones. So, bring a deck that can quest. You do need some willpower on this one or it's going to take forever. And you do need some battling. So you can't bring a terrible deck, but you don't need your best one either. Good time to experiment, perhaps with the twins that came out in this expansion and the last one. Eladan and Elro here. Seems like a good quest to play them on. And perhaps that's the point. They want you to be able to play the cards you just bought, right? So, thanks for watching.